Spencer Callahan, I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7970.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21 12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. It means we're brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos and fired up. You're hanging out with us. Hope your work week's off to a good start and plenty to do. Our normal Tuesday guests are going to be with us. Glenn West coming up in 30 minutes talking Tigers. Sharif Ishak at the bottom of the hour talking Saints. Some really, really crummy news out of Saints camp that Erik McCoy is going to miss significant time, a month and a half to 2 months, with the injury he suffered on the third snap of the game back on Sunday. So we'll get into how the Saints deal with that. It is not good. So we'll talk some of that a little bit later. Hugh Freeze had something really dumb to say yesterday, so we'll talk about that as well. He does that frequently, so we'll chat about that at the end of the hour. Is LSU's run defense actually improving? I dove deep into the numbers. We're going to talk about that at 2:15. If you don't have until 2:15 and want to do that more quickly, you can go to LouisianaSports.net and read my story on it. But I'll talk about it coming up at 2:15. I do want to start today with last night's football game. That was a viewing experience that I don't know that I've ever had before. I've certainly enjoyed games without a strong rooting interest in who wins. But having a strong rooting interest in two players for different teams was not something that I can recall in my sports watching existence. And that was the case last night with Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels. And we talked about it yesterday about how much pub LSU would get from this broadcast. And if you were watching right before kickoff, they did this whole thing about Daniels and Burrow, and they're in the purple and gold, throwing touchdowns in Tiger Stadium, winning a national championship, holding up Heisman trophies, and seeing their names called in the NFL draft. It was very much a pro-LSU segment, as you would expect. And then the game starts, and Joe takes his team right down there for a touchdown, and Jaden took his team right down there for a touchdown. And I'm sitting there going, all right, these guys are playing a little bit, and they did not slow down from the start to the finish. It was brilliant offensive football. I'm not here to tell you the defense has played a great game. I'm here to tell you the quarterbacks played a great game. Joe Burrow was excellent start to finish. Jaden Daniels was almost perfect. And I think I probably found myself, I said this yesterday on the show, and I think a lot of you are probably in my shoes. I know one buddy I was texting back and forth with felt the same way. I was pulling for the Bengals very slightly. Not as and look, I'm not trying to come across as he of 2 decades of Cincinnati Bengals fan, but like you, most of us have been pulling for the Bengals to some degree for 5 years. And we've got a relationship with that team. Jamar is there. Joe's been there. You think that they're a potential Super Bowl contender every single year because the second year that Joe was there, the first year Jamar was there, they made the Super Bowl, and you've been clawing to get back, and they've played really well against Mahomes and even in Arrowhead. And so you're invested in that team, and you understand where they are. With Jaden, it's brand new. You may not even watched the game 2 weeks ago with the Commanders and the Bucs. You probably didn't watch last week with the Commanders and the Giants. You may not have seen Jaden Daniels play for Washington yet, but Joe with the Bengals you've seen. And you felt like it was a bigger game for them. There aren't a lot of expectations in Washington right now. There are a lot of expectations in Cincinnati. And I feel like a lot of LSU fans were probably gravitating towards that slightly, and I was slightly, but I was still thrilled to watch Jaden ball. I was still thrilled when he's making plays, throwing touchdowns, and Twitter's blowing up. And that was really the point of last night, is for the entire country to be captivated by the two guys that have captivated us for now 5 years. And that absolutely happened. I thought Joe was awesome. I thought Jaden looked exactly like he looked at LSU, but in the NFL. He was patient. He took his check downs. He took his shots when they were there. Big shot down the left sideline right before halftime. Lays it right in the bucket to McLaurin down inside the 5. The next snap, he runs the read option in for a touchdown. Now that's exactly what we watched last year. He's doing it on Monday Night Football. And then in the second half, they're going down the field. He's dinking and dunking. And then, boom, he hits the read option, puts his foot in the ground, makes that defensive end look silly, gets up the field. And look, the Bengals are knocking on that door. They're down 5 after Joe hits Jamar on that gorgeous throw down the right sideline. Boom, their second touchdown catch of the night. And Jaden's pleading with the Washington staff, like, we cannot settle to punt right here back to the Bengals with a 5-point lead and just over 2 minutes to go. We got to go for this 4th down. And how much, that just brought me right back to last year. You can't punt. You couldn't punt at LSU last year. That's giving away points. And you kind of felt like that with the Bengals last night. Certainly did with Washington. I said, well, go for it. Jaden rolls out calmly, casually to the right. Boom, laser over the middle to Ertz. Got it. They get into a 3rd down situation. You could kick the field goal, but nope, we're going to take a shot. And Jaden goes over the top and makes the throw of the night that set social media ablaze into the back corner of the end zone for McLaurin. It was clinical. And if you were an LSU fan who truly did not have a rooting interest last night, and you watched that game, and you watched the first NFL game since 1940 where the offenses did not punt or turn the ball over. 1940. Nobody punted or turned the ball over. It was absolutely clinical on offense from the 2 greatest quarterbacks in the history of LSU football. When the dust settled in the game, those 2 guys combined to complete 82% of their throws for 621 yards of total offense and 6 touchdowns without a punt. It was freaking awesome. They were throwing dimes left and right, making plays with their feet. It was incredible to watch. And yeah, I was leaning slightly towards the Bengals, but when that game was over and I saw the reaction to what Jaden had done, I was like, yeah, that's our dude. Sick. And the Bengals have their issues, but man, Washington's got a feel today. And I was texting back and forth with Mark Keim, who we had on before the season started, who covers the Commanders. And I tried to get him on today, but he was flying like right during the show hour, so we couldn't do it. But like he woke up this morning early tweeting because he knows that the fan base that he plays to was on springs this morning. They feel like they've got something they haven't had in decades. And that's to be determined. We'll see. But like, he looked damn good last night, Beck. I had a blast watching that football game.
Yeah, that was. You definitely called it on the over there.
Yes, they did hit the over because they never punted or turned the ball over.
No, they
That's
didn't.
a good recipe to hit the over.
No, but one of the funny things, of course, I know Preston Guy tweeted you, but apparently you have a doppelganger on the Bengals staff. One of the guys that was talking to Joe Burrow during a timeout.
Yeah,
looks very much like you.
Joe wanted me to come. I couldn't be there because
I
I've got the show and I've got to write for .net and whatnot. So I sent my body double up there.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool to see. But yeah, the one of the things I took away from the game was earlier. I think it was maybe in the first half. Jaden missed a throw. McLaurin was wide open, going to the end zone, and he just airmailed it.
There was some pressure on him,
there was
and
some press,
threw it too far out to the right.
And in that first half too, a lot of times he scrambled and wasn't looking to throw. He got a couple first downs, but in that second half, I think he made some adjustments, and he obviously made some great throws to McLaurin as well. But he was also it was like kind of like that evolution he had in his second year at LSU, where instead of scrambling to run, he was scrambling to throw. And he made some really good throws in doing that as well. But man, that's a tough loss for the Bengals. Like you said, I don't really follow. I'm not as much of a fan of the Bengals as you are, but that's tough for them to start 0-3, man.
It is. They got Carolina next week. I'll talk about the Bengals here for a second because it's relevant. And look, they've been 0-2 and made the Super Bowl. They're usually 0-2. It's a gross way to start, but they've done that and they've caught fire. And there's nothing to suggest that they won't do that this year. Although it's a hard way to make a living digging yourself a hole in that conference with that, with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes undefeated to sit there at 0-3. Like that's a really, really damning point to be in your schedule. But here's the deal with the Bengals. Money's starting to be an issue.
Yep.
And when you've got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase on the cheap, money's not an issue. But now you got to pay Burrow. So Jesse Bates walks at safety. And now you've got a situation where Tyler Boyd moves on and you're trying to replace him with young players, and now Jamar Chase is holding out because he's not happy with his contract situation.
T.
And now
Higgins
T. Higgins is on the franchise tag, and he's going to be able to move on, and they're going to have to pay Jamar Chase a boatload of money. And how do you fill the roster holes? And that's the problem that they're going to have. When you've got a cheap quarterback who's top 5 in the league, which they had for the first 3 years of Joe's time there, and you've got one of the best wide receivers in the league on a rookie contract, you can fill that roster with talent to mask maybe some deficiencies that you've got. And I don't know if Zach Taylor's a deficiency or not. That's not my corner of the store to tell you if a pro football coach is really good or really not. If the results speak to him being good, I generally will lean that way. If they lean to him being terrible, I'll lean that way. I'm not there to go against the grain on that. But that's where the Bengals are. And you're dealing with a franchise that has forever done things on the cheap. And now it's going to be up to them to not. And you obviously have only so much you can spend on salary, but you've got to create a culture there that allows people to come in maybe on a little bit of a discount because they want to be a part of it. And if you're known as an organization that's on the cheap and that you're taking all your revenues and dumping them into 3 guys, then all of a sudden it doesn't look as good. So I'm not here to throw dirt on Joe Burrow's tenure with the Bengals. Far, far, far from it, because he's that good. And he was awesome last night in a loss. I saw Chris Canny go on and say that Burrow's to blame and the offense is to blame.
How could you even?
They didn't punt or turn the ball over. They scored 33 points. They settled for some field goals early, and that cost them. But field goals haven't gotten a ton of folks beat all that often. I thought he was great, but they've got some issues now. And the question is, are they capable enough as an organization to fix them? We'll have to see. But man, last night was a heck of a lot of fun. It put LSU on center stage once again, and those 2 guys absolutely balled out. And
I don't think it could have gone any better in terms of like.
I mean, I think the only way is if you're kind of like me and the buddy I was texting with, you'd rather it had gone the other way right there at the end.
Yeah, but
maybe McLaurin drops that ball and Burrow takes him down and wins it at the end. But
I just mean in terms of like. Both LSU quarterbacks going out there and displaying their ability, and that's just a really good look for LSU for sure.
And by now you know that Jaden Daniels completed 91% of his throws, highest in the history of the NFL for a rookie, passing Dak Prescott's 2016 mark. Pro Football Focus graded him out as the highest graded Redskins quarterback in a single game of all time. His passing yards his passing grade was over 90, which is almost impossible to do. He was fantastic. And I couldn't find this tweet. I tried to do it about 10 minutes before the show started. Couldn't scroll back far enough and didn't know how to do the search function because I'm not all that bright. But I do recall very vividly last year in the Mississippi State game, which was the first game they went nuts in, and he was hitting Malik for passes all over the yard. And I tweeted, and this was before we knew what was coming with Jaden. I said, when he gets hot, there's just not a lot you can do because he's decisive and accurate. And then if you do get some pressure, he can run away from it. And that was last night. He got hot, and there was just nothing that Cleveland and Anarumo, the defensive coordinator, could do. It was just too much, and it was really, really cool to watch. And so I'll be following both of them the rest of the year. Hopefully the Bengals can right the ship here. They got Carolina coming in, or maybe they're going to Carolina next week, and then Jaden and company back at it next week as well. So really, really cool night watching Monday Night Football. Very candidly, I did not sleep super awesome on Sunday night. I was thinking I was probably going to go to bed around halftime. I stayed up for the whole game.
Oh yeah,
I stayed up for the whole game. Had to.
Well,
it was too good.
I watched all of it except whenever the Commanders scored that last touchdown, I was like, okay, it's over, so I can stop now. But of course, the Bengals did go down and score again with 40 seconds left, but the game was over at that point. But
it was over, and it was a heck of a thing to watch. All right, when we come back, let's talk a little bit about Brian Kelly talked with the media yesterday. We've got some different cornucopia of topics that we'll pick apart, and then we'll get to Glenn West here coming up in 15 minutes. Don't go anywhere. It's a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Got to make LeBear's Baton Rouge your game day headquarters this season. They got the biggest screens around, and now you can bet and dine at ESPN Bet in person. I know temperatures are high on the weekend. Maybe a good way to tailgate. Head over to LeBear's. Watch the games all day on the great screens there. Watch and wager, and then you can head on in to Tiger Stadium to watch the Tigers. And if you're not going by and you just still want to gamble a little bit, hey, how about Cover 5? It's an awesome, awesome season-long contest we've got going on the Cover 5 app. You download it. You put in the code LABRSEC24. Again, that's LABRSEC24. And you get points on your 5 picks based on the final score in relation to the point spread. So if you pick a 3-point favorite to cover and they win by 10, you get those 7 points. If you pick a 10-point favorite to cover and they only cover by 3, you lose 7 points. So it's a really, really fun way, and it's a volatile way to gamble all season long, and you can win season-long prizes as well as week-to-week prizes as well if you hit in that promo code LABRSEC24. LeVare's Baton Rouge, your live sports headquarters. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966 for help.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Savor game day platters and snacks, plus drink specials at 1717 Kitchen and Cocktail. So come out for game day and let our team make you the MVP. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary. For those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Major shout out, Pluckers, bringing you our Tuesday shows. Makes me a little sad, though. A little sad. Tonight, my final Tuesday Plucker Sports Trivia involving the Chicago Cubs.
Oh,
No. We're not hanging it up.
I was about to say,
involving
man.
the Cubs for the year.
Yeah.
That is
season ended on Saturday.
Well, season ends coming up here.
It does, but the season actually ended on Saturday because they got eliminated from playoffs.
Yeah, well, either way, they had a disappointing year. And it is one of my small joys every week is going into Pluckers from April through September. And on Tuesday, almost every Tuesday, they've got a night game. And I can drink my cold beer and ask a few trivia questions and watch the Cubs play. And I'll do that again tonight. But it'll be the last one until April.
Sad.
So that is very sad. So come on out tonight, 8:30, Plucker Sports Trivia. We will be there calling out some trivia questions. You can win gift cards, drink some cold beer, eat some awesome chicken wings. Pluckers, if you don't like our wing, we'll give you the bird. All right, Brian Kelly met with the media yesterday, had his weekly press conference. And there are a couple things that I wanted to get to, one of which is I want to talk about big plays in the running game, but we'll talk about that in hour number 2. A couple things here, and he was adamant about the gradual development of some young players, and I think this is an interesting thing that is going to take shape over the next 3-4 weeks that Brian Kelly is paying attention to today.
Look, we got a lot of football ahead of us, right? This is an important week for us, as we continue to develop. But, after the bye week, welcome to the SEC. We go 7 weeks with bang, 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 straight of SEC competition. We're gradually, you saw Don McKinley, in action. You're going to see more guys that we're gradually bringing along to get involved in more action because the schedule obviously is going to be robust. So this has really been about building our football team, getting to know our team, know our strengths, know our weaknesses, the things that we have to be better at in all phases of the game. But at the same time, developing some of those younger players so that when we have to call on them, we can get the kind of play necessary to win SEC games.
There are a number of true freshmen that LSU is quite frankly going to play early and often the rest of the way. I mean, we saw early in the season P.J. Woodland out there at corner. You saw Caden Durham break out in the South Carolina game. Of course, Gabriel Elliford has come on in the last couple of weeks. Don McKinley played last week. Deshaun Spears has played a good bit in the secondary as well. I think you're going to see some of Trey Green. And then potentially Xavier Atkins is going to have to play some at linebacker with Harold Perkins going out. So you're talking about 6, 7, 8 guys that you're going to see. I didn't even mention Ahmad Bro, who's going to play more than any of them. He's the starter at defensive tackle at this point. So there are going to be a lot of true freshmen that are going to play for LSU, and this is kind of the last one where you can afford a mistake here or there. I realize we'll talk about South Carolina over the next 4 days, and I realize that they have an offense that scored a ton of points, but they lost their first 2 games of the year, and if you lose to South Alabama, then what's the point of lacing them up for the rest of the games? I think LSU is going to be able to handle themselves this week. But the true freshmen are going to have to play, and you've got this week, and then you've got a week of self-evaluation as you enter the open date, and then you come back and you get ready for a really good Ole Miss team, and you're going to have a lot of these young guys play, and I think it's very, very important that they get a good number of reps coming up in the game on Saturday against South Alabama. One of those young players, not a true freshman, that got a lot of playing time in the game on Saturday and then started the opener before he got hurt was Kyle Parker, and he had his first touchdown back on Saturday on a gorgeous throw from Garrett Nussmeier, and Brian Kelly talked about that.
I've always said, how do you get these players confidence? They got to go make plays. Confidence comes with making plays. I mean, you could talk about confidence all the time, but he needed to go and make a play. And he made the play, and that was one of the worst dances that I've ever seen in an end zone. He looked like me dancing. So we're going to work on that next. But it was so good for him. He's worked so hard. He had the injury, kind of set him back. He had a great camp. And I thought he was poised to really break out. And then he had the elbow injury that kind of set him back. So I was really happy for him to get that catch, and I think that's going to really help him moving forward.
He really did have a great camp, and he stood out in a group, not with Kyron Lacey because he was pretty clearly at the top of the list, and then you saw C.J. Daniels that was good as well. But Hilton until he got hurt, but he was probably ahead of Aaron Anderson, of Xavier Thomas, and certainly of Shelton Sampson and Landon Ibieta. He did a really good job early in camp, and there's a reason why he was out there very, very quickly in the USC game. Of course, Hilton got hurt 2 weeks leading up, and he took those reps, but he earned that. And then he got hurt immediately, pretty much in that game. He's running a kind of a pick play route there in the first half, and hurts his elbow. But they like him, and I think there's more in the tank from Kyle Parker. Lacey's clearly number one, and I think we haven't seen all there is to see from C.J. Daniels to this point. He's going to be a really good player, but Kyle Parker, if it factors in here, made a really good play back in the game on Saturday. The diversity of the passing game and trying to get a lot of different guys involved, Brian Kelly enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think it's the nature of the offensive structure in terms of what we've done and how we've done it. I think Joe and Cortez has a large hand in the passing game in terms of making sure that if you're just focusing in on one guy, last year we had, obviously an alpha, and, we had BT as well. this year, it can go to anybody. And now you add the tight end into the mix as your leading receiver right now. It's very difficult to defend us. And the backs are catching it for touchdowns, the tight ends, a number of the receivers. It's a pretty comprehensive passing game. I think we need Chris Hilton back. And this seems to be the week where we feel like we're going to get him back healthy. If we can add that vertical passing game, another element to it, I think it just makes it even better.
I agree with all this. If you want to just for a second put the passing defense aside, put the youth at defensive tackle aside, put the lack of production in the run game aside, those are all things that we have to talk about and we have talked about. But if you want to just bring the passing game to the forefront and you want to talk about this objectively, like they've got a lot of guys that are involved. They've got a lot of guys with a lot of talent. They've got experience. And they've got diversity, as he's talking about. You got the pop pass that you're hitting to Xavier Thomas that he scores the first touchdown on. He mentioned getting the ball out to the backs in the backfield, and we know that Caden Durham can catch it and turn it up the field and make a play. We know that Kyron Lacey is a threat to go vertical, not down the field, but up in the air to make catches. He's a great athlete in that way. You know that Nussmeier's not afraid to take shots. You know that Hilton's got take the top off the defense speed. Like, I would like the offense to be balanced in terms of pass and run, but if you can have a passing game that is balanced, that helps offset the lack of a consistent running game. And LSU's got that. Like they can control the football with the passing game. There's less margin for error than in the run game, but you can control the football with the passing game. And LSU has done that in all these games. They controlled time of possession in a big, big way against South Carolina and UCLA. And in neither one of those games did they just run it down their throats. Now, Durham had 100 yards, no doubt, against South Carolina, which was great. But the day was won by the passing game, and that was the main pillar of their offense, and they still dominated time of possession because they're efficient in what they do, and it's not just one type of passing game. You can't just pin your ears back and come at Garrett Nussmeier because the backs are involved, because the tight end is involved, because they can hurt you with the screen game and they can hurt you with the horizontal game. They're good at throwing the football, and I think they're going to get better as Nussmeier gets more snaps, as Chris Hilton comes back, as Kyle Parker progresses. Maybe you can get Trey'Dez Green and or Kamorian Pimpton involved. Like there's a lot there in the passing game that should be exciting. And Kelly talked about the fact that they're getting more pressure looks than they expected. They thought once they started to throw it that folks would back up, and they really haven't.
It's been a lot more pressure fronts than we expected. We thought we'd get teams backing off by this time, but they haven't seemed to do that, which, has worked out pretty good for us too. He's thrown the ball effectively. So, again, I think from our perspective, it's even changed our thought process a little bit in terms of, preparation is that, we have to even take another segment of practice and just have our run game focused on, more pressures, because if teams are going to continue to do that, we have to look at, what that run game looks like with even more hats.
It's a curious thing to me. Like, I would get teams just absolutely slamming the box full with some of the quarterbacks that LSU's had in the past that weren't as good, with some of the running games that LSU's had in the past that weren't as good. But the fact that Brian Kelly is telling us that consistently folks are packing the box and they're pressuring LSU's offensive front, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because trying to win on the outside consistently against these wide receivers seems like a fool's errand. But LSU will take it, and they're throwing for a lot of yards. Garrett Nussmeier leads the country in completions and is second in touchdowns. So you'll take that all day, every single day. All right, our LSU football coverage you can find on YouTube each and every day. Hunt on LSU is our LSU football channel. Tuesday shows are brought to you by Pluckers. We'll get to Glenn West to go 24/7 when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. You may take some time to go do a Google review of a restaurant you like. You may take a time to do a Google review after you buy a car. Do you spend a lot of time Google reviews for your insurance agent? Probably not. Well, the folks that work with Highland Insurance Group do. There are over 100 of them on the internet right now. That just says a ton about the customer experience that you get, the client experience that you get with Highland Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you. They represent you in the marketplace, and they make sure that your business can keep up and running even if disaster strikes, whether that's a natural disaster like a hurricane, whether that's cyber attack, car accident, workers' comp issue. You don't want that to derail things with your business. And if you work with the Highland Insurance Group, it won't. Jonathan Carbo and his team right here in Baton Rouge. If you're looking for a magic bullet here on property insurance to cut 20% off, this is probably not the phone call or the website for you to visit, because that just doesn't exist in the marketplace right now. It's nasty out there. But if you're just looking for somebody to take care of you, to make sure things are placed in the right place, that your coverages read correctly, you looked at your exclusions and all those type things, the Highland Insurance Group is where you need to be. It's the Highland Insurance Group. They're HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Cruising right along here, Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. It's that time each week. We talk to Glenn West, senior writer at Go 24/7, talking Tigers. He joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Glenn, how we doing?
Doing great, Hunt. I don't know that I've had more fun watching an NFL game that wasn't Saints related than last night. I don't know about you, but that was really fun to watch.
It was awesome. LSU was on full display, and those two guys, I don't know if they could have played a whole heck of a lot better. It was incredible to watch. Are you surprised at how well Jaden played?
I got to say, I was a little bit. I mean, I have him on one of my fantasy teams, and I've been following him pretty closely. But, man, he really, I think, took it up another gear and kind of put the NFL on watch that, yeah, I don't have to wait, a couple years for me to hit my stride. I might already be here and be ready. So, yeah, very impressed by him. And those two throws that he made to Terry McLaurin were two of the better throws I think I've ever seen him make, and to do that in week 3 of his NFL career, really, really impressive stuff.
The Bengals in trouble?
Yeah, I mean, they can't keep digging themselves in these holes. I mean, it's gonna be hard for them to climb out of. But you still got the Burrow and Chase connection, and we'll see kind of what happens there. But yeah, it's been a tough start for those guys for sure.
Harold Perkins goes down. How big a deal is that for LSU?
Yeah, I think it's massive. I mean, I don't think that I think you and I would agree. I think most people who've watched would agree that we haven't seen the best of Harold Perkins yet this year. I think he was showing some strides there in that South Carolina game, that he was on the cusp of some really spectacular play. But I mean, he's just such a phenomenal athlete, and really a once in a generation type of talent, that it's going to be hard to replace him. I mean, Brian Kelly said it yesterday. Like, there were offenses had to scheme against him because they knew that they were going to have to, because of what he can do. He can cover receivers, he can cover tight ends, he can do so many different things on the field, and you only have so many of those in college, let alone on one roster. So I think the point he made was, we don't have any more of those guys left, so we're going to have to cobble this thing together as best as we can. And I think that LSU is going to be in this position here where they probably have to move Major Burns down to the star, and I think you'll see a lot more of those Whit Weeks, Greg Penn inside linebacker duos. I think Wes Weeks will get a lot of opportunity going forward, but to lose Perkins a month into the season, I think if you had gone into the year and kind of made a list of guys that LSU couldn't afford to lose on that side of the ball, you probably wouldn't have gotten very far without writing Harold Perkins' name and Jacobian Guillory's name down. And here we are, week 4, and both of them are lost for the season.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, we didn't know Swinson was going to play the way that he has back in August, so I got to imagine that probably those two guys are among the top 3. I would say
probably
the
up
top
there.
3.
Yeah, I would say those two, and I maybe Savion would be number 3 on that list. I mean, I don't know who else would be there. Maybe one of the defensive backs, but it's a really, really tough spot to be in defensively. But with that being said, I do think LSU's defense has shown you that they can be a disruptive defense, even with Harold Perkins not being the one that's in there making all of those plays. I think they've had guys like Swinson, like Savion Jones, step up and make some big plays. Dominic McKinley got his first action this past weekend and picked up one of the 5 sacks that LSU had. So I think there's some playmakers still left on this defense, and Blake Baker's scheme will allow a lot of those guys to have those opportunities, but certainly you'd like to have your big bullets available to you, and I don't think they get much bigger than what Perkins could have offered you come SEC play.
You think they're getting better on defense?
I do. Look, I think the explosive plays are the one thing that you can nitpick, and obviously I will not have any retaliation to that. If you want to say that LSU's defense is still bad because of the explosive plays, okay. But I tend to think that they've been a lot better in coverage. I think they've been a little bit closer to the ball in those situations. They haven't allowed a ton of those explosive plays downfield via the passing game. They've given up some of the big ones on the run. I think those are what I'm going to lean on Kelly there and say I think those are correctable mistakes. And if they can even just cut some of these explosive plays in half, I think we're having a very different conversation about this defense right now, because they are making plays and they are getting off the field relatively, at a better pace than they were this time a year ago, when it just seemed like they couldn't get off the field at all. So I do think that they've made some strides this year. Are you where you want to be long term? Absolutely not. But I think that this coaching staff is, especially on the defensive line, and I think that's where I've been most impressed, is with Kevin Peoples and Bo Davis, what those guys have done up front. I think that that should be a very encouraging sign for LSU fans going forward, that group is seemingly playing pretty well and doing a nice job of getting into the backfield and holding their own against some of the competition they've played so far.
I know that Brian Kelly will joke with the assembled media a little bit here and there. it didn't seem like he was joking in the postgame on Saturday. What did you make of his demeanor in the postgame? I thought it was odd.
It was one of the more bizarre ones I've been in there for, because the one question about Mason Taylor in particular threw me through a loop because he didn't want to talk about it, and I'm like, well, this I couldn't tell if he was joking completely or if he was being serious, and I think it maybe was a little bit of both, but
I think we all talked about Mason Taylor. I certainly talked about Mason Taylor. I'm assuming you probably wrote about Mason
I thought
Taylor.
he was due for a bounce back year, and we had mentioned that he was somebody that was just kind of lost in the shuffle last year behind Malik and Brian, and that they needed him to step up, and that we all thought he would. So I don't know. I guess you take some of those things he says with a grain of salt, but I think, look, Mason Taylor's been fantastic for him this year. I really don't know what to make of his press conference, to be told.
It was one of those, usually when he does that, he kind of deadpans and then he'll say, "Oh, that's a joke," but then he didn't do it this time. He just kind of kept going. It was odd to watch.
Yeah.
As far as the passing game goes, he talked about it yesterday, and there's a diversity in the passing game that's growing as Chris Hilton expected to come back and Kyle Parker came back, and maybe you can get those young tight ends involved as well. I mean, how much better can this LSU passing game get?
Yeah, it's funny you asked me about that. I just wrote a piece about that's coming up here shortly. And look, they spread the ball around a lot. They've got obviously 9 different receivers caught a pass on Saturday. 8 of the 13 touchdowns that Nussmeier has thrown have gone to different receivers. I mean, Kyron Lacey leads the way with 5, but nobody else has more than 2, and a lot of them have 1. So like he's dispersing this thing around. And I do think that there's another gear that this thing can get to, especially when you factor Hilton back in. I think there's still some untapped potential that we've seen from CJ Daniels and from Xavion Thomas. I think there's just so many ways that LSU can get creative with that, passing game. And look, I mean, I think there's some truth to what Kelly has said. If teams are going to continue to stack the box against LSU and go 7 or 8 guys in the box, and take away the run, I think LSU will take those one-on-one matchups and they'll continue to hit on them. And so, I think that this is, if this is just a good start for LSU's offense, I'd love to see what this group can be as a great passing offense. And I think there's still some untapped potential there that we could see starting to take shape here over the next couple weeks.
You can take this one either way you want to, but is there anything to worry about on Saturday with South Alabama, and or is there something you're looking at them working on Saturday against South Alabama?
Yeah, I think you have to look at the offense, or I'm sorry, the South Alabama offense and LSU's defense. I mean, this is you can only play who you play, and South Alabama has done a really nice job offensively. These first 3 or 4 games that they played in. Major Applewhite obviously is a head coach that has a lot of experience at some big Power 4 programs, whether it's Texas or Alabama or, I think that there's a couple more in there that I'm just kind of forgetting off the top of my head, but those are the big 2. So that he's going to have that team ready to play, against the LSU, because, he's seen these kinds of teams before. So I'm going to be very interested to see kind of how they handle this offense. This is a pretty explosive offense from what I've seen. The running back Bothwell is really, really good. The quarterback is a redshirt freshman who has done some good things in here early on. Still got to do a little bit more research on him, but just off of some of the initial numbers I've read, some of the initial game tape I've watched, they've done a really nice job of moving the ball pretty efficiently and hitting some explosive plays. And obviously that's an area where LSU's defense, you'd like to see them kind of cut back on. So if this defense can kind of hold that offense in check and, continue to move the ball well offensively and maybe get off to a faster start, I think that would be another thing that all of us would love to see before the heart of SEC play gets going here. Then I think LSU can be in a really good spot heading into their bye week where they can get healthy and get prepared for that Ole Miss game.
All your football team coverage, your recruiting, maybe a little hoops tomorrow. Glenn West got you covered over there at Go 24/7. It's with us every single Tuesday. I'll see you this evening, Glenn. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, Hunt.
He is Glenn West. Again, check him out at go247.com. All right, when we come back, I got to talk about Hugh Freeze because he keeps saying stuff. So we'll do that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. If you don't use your tub, why is it there? I mean, we got to use the tub. Got a 2.5-year-old. He's got to have bath time. 4,000 toys, water getting splashed all over the place. It's quite the scene. But you may not have that at your home. And if you've got a tub that sits there and it's a little bit older and it's a little bit dingy and it's tough to clean and you never take a bath, get rid of it. Put in a gorgeous glass walk-in shower. Tub to shower conversion. They do it all the time at One Bath and Closets. David Duvall and his team, as I mentioned, have been doing this for 3 decades. They can do it for you. You can change the functionality of your bathroom. You can change the aesthetic of your bathroom. You can add some value to your home. And it doesn't take all that long, and it's not all that expensive. And if you do worry about paying for it, financing options are available at One Bath and Closets. It doesn't have to be a full-scale bathroom renovation or remodel. They can do something that's short, quick, and simple for you, like a tub-to-shower conversion. Go to the website, onebathandclosets.com. Check out the testimonials. Check out the picture of their great work, and get that free consultation with David Duvall and his team. It's One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
It's no secret, the best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Closing up hour number 1 here. Tuesday show is brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar. I'll start with this caveat. Like, I don't know Hugh Freeze. Never met him. Never talked to him. May never do that ever. But I just observed him from afar for over a decade. And my contention with Hugh Freeze is I don't believe that the things he says and the things that he does line up. You may or may not like Lane Kiffin, but basically his entire persona is pretty authentic. You may not like Mike McDaniel's a little bit of a character down there with the Dolphins, but he's pretty authentic. Nick Saban, kind of the same all the time. What he says, what he does, pretty well line up. I don't think that Hugh Freeze is necessarily like that all the time, and that's my contention with Hugh Freeze. And sometimes he puts his foot in his mouth when he gets a microphone in front of him. And he clearly was a little pouty after they lost to Arkansas over the weekend, and he had some time to ruminate on that and think about it. And then yesterday, he said something that I thought was just ridiculous. And we're going to play the audio for you, and I'll give my thoughts on it. You can form your own opinions, and if you've been on the internet or on Twitter, you may have seen this already. This was Hugh Freeze yesterday talking about their 24-14 loss to the Arkansas Razorbacks.
And those are the truths of the game, and and it's the truth for me too. I'm not, because we've got to get them to where the winning ways are happening on those critical downs. I mean, no offense whatsoever to Arkansas or to Cal. I love Sam Pittman. I hope he wins the rest of his games. But I'm telling you, the hard truth is we play them 9 more times, we beat them 9 times. And that's what's hard to take. And it's hard for our fans, I'm sure, and it's certainly hard for us. And you have 460-something yards, and we only had 50-something plays of offense because we turned it over.
I mean, what? You play them 9 more times, you beat them 9 more times, based on what? You lost by 2 scores on your home field. What do you mean you're going to beat them 9 times in a row? And I understand. Like, sometimes freak things happen in football, and you get 2 kicks blocked or something like that happens. You go, well, that would never happen again. But I'm sorry. You can't tell me that in a game where you scored 14 points on your home field and turned the ball over 5 times is not going to happen again, since it happened 2 weeks before that when you turned the ball over 5 times against Cal and scored exactly 14 points and lost to a mediocre football team. This is the identity of your team, is turning the ball over 5 times. You've only played 2 teams with a pulse. Alabama A&M? Nope. New Mexico? Nope. You played 2 teams with a pulse, Cal and Arkansas, and you did the exact same thing in both games. You turned it over 5 times, you threw 4 interceptions, you only scored 14 points, and you got beat on your home field. Don't sit there and tell me that if you played them 9 more times, you would beat them 9 more times. That's ludicrous. There are few teams in the Power 4 that you could play 9 times and beat 9 in a row. Not many at all. And Arkansas doesn't appear to be one of them. That is a ridiculous thing for a coach to say. And it makes me question whether or not you're living in reality or not. How about we got to go back to practice and quit turning the ball over because my play calls aren't any good and my player evaluation's not any good and my development's not any good. How about that for a line on your call-in show? I am shocked that he would go on and say something that far from the truth. Beck, you've analyzed this entire situation here. They beat him 9 in a row? 9 in a row.
It almost seems like he maybe thought because he was on the radio show that he would say something like that. Maybe it would get the fans, oh, yeah.
No, that's going to make the fans go, you sound like a dope.
It's going to be even worse. So
the fans will say, hey, I'm tired of paying thousands of dollars for tickets and parking and hotel accommodations for me to show up in Jordan-Hare Stadium and your team to turn the ball over 5 times and lose to these crappy teams. That's what I'm tired of.
Yeah, I can only hope that he doesn't actually believe that, what he said, but and it was just saying it because maybe, like I said, he thought, I want on the radio show, I'll just say, sometimes sometimes coaches on radio shows will just say stuff to try to hype the crowd up, but I can only hope
not the time.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. I can only hope that's what he was doing, but if he truly believes that they would that's the case, is just kind of absurd and unbelievable.
They wouldn't beat Vanderbilt 9 times in a row.
Oh, definitely no. Vandy's a wagon hunt. They almost beat Missouri.
I think they might beat State 9 times in a row.
They
wouldn't beat Arkansas 9 times in a row because they had them in Jordan-Hare. And like I've said, the lunacy of it is that what you just did, that you're saying would not happen again in 9 more times, you did in the only other game that mattered. The exact same thing. It's so absurd. And it just adds on for me with him. I just can't deal with it. I cannot deal with him.
Yeah.
I think he's a great coach. Now, we'll see if it works out at Auburn. He certainly did a great job at Ole Miss, and then it all kind of came crumbling down, and that's his own doing. I think he's a really good coach, but they had a bumpy first season. They probably should have won 7 games last year.
Yeah.
The Alabama game, and then you shouldn't have thrown up on your home field in a game against, what was that, New Mexico State?
Right.
But this looks bumpy again because you've already lost to Cal and Arkansas. You've got a home game coming up with Oklahoma. Then you're at Georgia, at Missouri, at Kentucky successively. And we haven't even gotten to your boys from Vanderbilt who are coming to the Plains. But Arkansas's at the end of the season, and Texas A&M comes to Auburn as well. So, I mean, if you don't get this thing right, you lose to Oklahoma and you lose to Georgia and you lose to Missouri, say you split with Vanderbilt and Kentucky, beat ULM, and maybe a home game against A&M, you're talking about 4 or 5 wins. And that's year 2. That ain't going to get it. And nobody on the Plains is going to want to hear about you winning 9 in a row when you win 5 games in year 2.
And that firmly makes your seat pretty hot next year.
Yeah, Auburn fires coaches quite frequently.
They do.
They are no problem doing that whatsoever. So you can go to the national final the year before, and if you lose to Georgia and Alabama the next year, they'll have a phone call with you. Yellowwood will be on line 1. So, just not a great comment by Coach Freeze there on the Plains of Auburn. That's going to do it for hour number 1 here on a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you missed it, catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, or anywhere you do find your sound. We opened talking about Jaden and Joe last night in a real showcase for the LSU football program, and a nice win for Washington. Brian Kelly's sound on some of the young players with this LSU team in the passing game. That was at 2:15, and Glenn West talking Tigers at 1:30. We're heavy on the Saints in the second hour with a little bit of LSU mixed in as well. I want to talk about the LSU run game. Is it improving? There are some numbers that may suggest that it is. Then we got to talk about Erik McCoy's injury. That's a big deal, and Sharif Ishak at the bottom of the hour. We'll pause for Sports Center and come back with hour number 2 of the Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial properties. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre announced he was recently diagnosed with Parkinson's disease during his testimony today at a congressional committee hearing on welfare reform. Everything is on the table for the 0-3 Jaguars. Coach Doug Peterson, not ruling anything out, said there has to be changes, whether it's play design, personnel. Fixing what's wrong with Jacksonville won't be easy, explains ESPN NFL analyst Jeff Saturday.
It's like everybody takes turns kind of shooting themselves in the foot. And you just, when you never know where the problems are going to be, you can't fix them because it could be anybody and everybody, not just one issue. It's a number, and that's the worst place to be on a team.
Jeff Saturday on Carlin versus Joe. The Raiders staying with quarterback Gardner Minshew as their starter for Sunday's game against the Browns. The Steelers will again prepare for quarterback Justin Fields to start Sunday against the Colts. Russell Wilson, calf injury, will be limited at practice tomorrow. Meantime, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reports Steelers edge rusher Alex Highsmith likely out multiple weeks with a groin injury. He will not require surgery.
Why pay more for a great shave? Choose Barbasol, America's #1 brand of shaving cream. Barbasol's thick and rich lather gives you a close, comfortable shave for just half the price of gels. Barbasol.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar. I'll be there tonight, Nicholson location, 8:30 sports trivia. Come on by, grab a team, eat some delicious jumbo chicken wings, drink some delicious ice-cold craft beer, and win some gift cards at Plucker's, 8:30 tonight, Nicholson location. Have you out of there by 10 o'clock. Always look forward to our Tuesdays over there at Plucker's. Saints got some bad news today as Erik McCoy is going to miss some time. And this is a guy they just couldn't afford to lose, quite frankly. Erik McCoy at center has been their best offensive lineman, and we understand that all the storylines leading up to this season were about the offensive line and what it could be, and he was the linchpin of that group. You know, they made the decision to go with Lucas Patrick at the left guard. They made the decision to move Taliese Fuanga over to left tackle as a rookie. Trevor Penning's going to try to play the right side, and you plug Ruiz right there on the right. And really, McCoy is the only sure thing on that line. Ruiz has been up and down. Penning's been a project that they're trying to get something out of. Fuaga's a question mark because he's a rookie, and Patrick's a guy that they kind of plugged in. You got Saul DeVary here and there. But they don't have anything nearly as solid as McCoy. And you saw him. He played 2 games. And the Saints were brilliant in 2 games. He goes out on the third snap of the game. In the third game, they can't do anything. And I don't know that it was all Erik McCoy, and I don't think it was all Erik McCoy, but there's a sizable portion of his presence that was his lack of a presence that was really detrimental to the Saints up front on Sunday. And now he's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks to undergo some surgery for the groin injury, and the Saints have to figure out how to pivot from here. They have a number of options. None of them, in my estimation, sound great, but it's what they're going to have to do. So in this game, they moved Lucas Patrick to center and plugged in Oli Udoh. They can do that again if they want. It didn't look great. You can move Cesar Ruiz to center. That's an option. He hasn't looked great there in minimal time, but he's an option.
That's what he played in college.
Sure.
So.
And you've got Lucas Patrick, and you've got Nick Saldiveri, and you can make something work there. Landon Young can step in and play for you. Oli Udoh is another option, as well as we talked about. It's not as if they don't have anyone to turn to. They just don't have anyone as good. And that's my thing with the next man up mentality in football. And I've worked with a lot of football players over the year, and all of them, to a man, believe wholeheartedly in the next man up theory. And of course, because that's the only thing that you have.
You have to think that way.
Sure. But I'm an analyst here in this role, and the next man up isn't as good as Erik McCoy.
There's a reason he was starting and the other guy wasn't.
Yes.
He was better.
So this is very, very detrimental. There are some options that the Saints could pursue outside the organization, and I invite you to go to LouisianaSport.net to read Ross Jackson's piece that's rather in-depth on the matter. But he mentions Mason Cole, who was a Michigan Wolverine, who Clint Kubiak has worked with in Minnesota and has played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's Brian Allen, who's a 7-year pro. We won a Super Bowl with the Rams. And there's also Connor McGovern. There's actually 2 Connor McGoverns in the NFL. Who knew? But this is one of them. He's currently a member of the Jets practice squad, but they could sign him up to the active roster if they wanted to do that. So there are some options, and the Saints are going to have to do this. Now, the good news is that the Saints had to pivot on the fly last year on the offensive line with all the issues with Ramczyk and the issues with Penning and trying to move all that around, and you had injuries, and they just found a way to cobble it together, and things actually got better toward the end of the season with basically men from off the street playing on the offensive line for the Saints. It's not ideal, but they did show that they could make those kind of moves last year, and I think that they're going to have to do something similar this year. I will take Ross's word for it over my theories, and Ross Jackson writes on LouisianaSports.net that what he thinks is likely is that the team's going to either move Lucas Patrick or Cesar Ruiz to McCoy's spot, and then Landon Young or Oli Udoh would move in. Okay. It makes me nervous. And I'm not going to sit here and project doom for the New Orleans Saints based on one loss at the center, but you understand how important that spot is. Now, 6 to 8 weeks can be a pretty wide range of what we're looking at as far as a return date. Obviously, the Saints just finished up week 3. Week 4, you've got Atlanta on the road. Week 5, you got the Chiefs on the road. Week 6, you've got Tampa coming to you. Week 7 is a short week against Denver, against the Broncos. And then you've got at Los Angeles, at Carolina, versus Atlanta, and then Cleveland at home. If he were to miss all of those games, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the max number here. And the reason why that makes sense is because the bye week comes immediately after, and you could catch another 2 weeks there. But you're obviously going to plug him in as quickly as possible. You already missed one basically game without McCoy. If you miss 9 games without Erik McCoy, I feel like your chances of winning the NFC South have diminished greatly. They're not gone. They've diminished greatly. Now, if he can come back in 6 weeks and you only miss basically 7 games, that could be the difference. Keep in mind, the Saints were right there for the division last year. I don't project Atlanta or Tampa to win 13 games here. We're more likely talking about 10 or 11, in my opinion.
I agree, because after the first 2 weeks, everybody's like, "Oh man, the Bucs and the Saints, they might be contenders in the NFC." And then the Saints, of course, got on lose, and the Bucs got throttled by the Broncos.
Clunk.
It was bad.
Yes.
So
I think 10 is kind of. Is it fair to say that they're shooting to win every game. They're shooting to go 1-0. That's what they'll tell you. Is it fair to say if they could get to 10, you'd feel really good about it?
I would agree. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we said 9-8 before the season. I think maybe you add another win to that or two because of the way they started. So, obviously, no one thought you'd beat Dallas. So
you're 2-1 right now, and you're looking at this schedule, and you're trying to get to 10. So you've got to go 8-6 the rest of the way. That's doable. Now, after the bye, we talked about this a lot with the schedule. When you know with reasonable certainty that McCoy is going to be healthy from this injury. It's an injury, you never know for sure anything, but it's reasonable to expect if you're saying 6 to 8 weeks and the bye would give him 9 to 10 weeks to come back and play the rest of the way. You got the Rams at home. Okay. I don't know that that's an easy game. I don't know that that's unwinnable. I think that's a 50-50 game. You're at the Giants, who I think aren't any good. You're home for Washington, which looks a little bit more difficult than we thought as of last night, but it's still a rookie quarterback, and it's still Washington, who's a flawed team. You're at Green Bay, then you come home for the Raiders, and then you're at Tampa. There are very winnable games in the midst of that finish that you're going to have to close strong in, and they did that last year. All that to say, to go all the way around the world here, they need to tread water and find a way to be around 500 in the time that he's out, whether that's 3-3 for 6 weeks or 4-4 for 8 weeks, something to that effect. If you're around 500, that gives you a chance to close and get to the 10 wins that we're talking about. And I think there are plenty of people that would suggest that making this big a deal out of one injury on an NFL offensive line is making a mountain out of a molehill. I disagree because of his ability at that spot and then how bad it got when he came out.
And he's the best offensive lineman on your team. Now,
by a long shot. And Lucas Patrick had a really good first 2 games. Well, if you move him to center or move him from there, well, all of a sudden have you compromised that spot on your offensive line? And, Carr and the protections and the communication and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot that goes into it. And I know this gets brought up a ton and for good reason. And a lot of guys, I know Charles Handgriff talks about it all the time. But Buddy Liberto, former pre- and post-game New Orleans Saints, would say, and he was known to put $1 or $2 on a football game here and there, he would say, team loses their starting center, you go the other way every time. And, whether or not that's fail-safe.
The statistics are pretty high. Yeah, obviously, it's not undefeated, but
it's not the quarterback. It's a big deal, though. So this is a huge loss for New Orleans. They got to find a way to tread water over the coming weeks. And you look at what I would call very winnable games over that stretch. Home against Denver is very winnable.
At Carolina.
And at Carolina is very winnable.
Home against Cleveland.
Home against Cleveland should be just fine. And that's in this stretch. At Kansas City is going to be brutal. I think this week is going to be tough, but it's certainly a game they can win. At the Chargers will certainly be tough. But it's...
It won't have to worry about a away field advantage for the Chargers because they're pretty much all away games.
None of that, right? So I'm fascinated by this, but I'm bummed out even more so by this because things were flying so high there, and this is just one of those 3 or 4 guys they just could not afford to lose. You can't lose Carr, you can't lose McCoy. You really don't need to lose DeMario Davis because they got Pete Werner and they've certainly got Willie Gay there. But then who's next? I don't want DeMario Davis.
That's the heartbeat of the defense.
Yeah, I don't want him coming out of there. Even Lattimore, we didn't panic when Lattimore went out. They got guys that can play there. I don't want to lose Kamara. He's probably the most impactful guy on that in the ground game for sure, and even in the playmaking core. But this is up there in the top 3 guys they couldn't afford to lose, and they're going to lose him for a couple of months here. So that's a big time bummer with Erik McCoy.
This is going to put an onus on Clint Kubiak's ability to adjust to this because the offensive line is just not going to be. It's going to be worse. There's just no getting around it. So how can he scheme around this and make the play calling more friendly to the offensive line? And if he can do that, this just makes his job even harder.
Yep. We've got time to do it this time around, though, as we talked about yesterday. He had no time last week. He goes out on the 3rd snap of the game. You got to play a whole football game without him. They tried to cobble that together, and it didn't go so hot. So we'll see. Erik McCoy out for 6 to 8 weeks. Saints are at Atlanta Sunday noon kickoff on Fox. When we come back, I wrote a piece at LouisianaSports.net talking about LSU's running defense. Is it getting any better? Brian Kelly would point you to some numbers. I will give you those numbers, and you can form your own opinion on that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Erik McCoy is going to need some physical therapy. should go to Evolve PT, but I feel like the Saints probably have some folks in-house that are probably going to be in charge of that. So that means more time for you at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. EvolvePT.com is the website. No matter your age, if you're an active person and can't do the things that you want to do because of pain, whether that's running, weightlifting, golf, youth athletics, adult athletics, whatever the case may be, Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports is your one-stop shop. Robbie Bolton's been doing this for 2 decades now. He can get you back to being your active self. They do the scraping, the cupping, isokinetic testing, dry needling, all those types of technologies to get you back to being your active self. They got them over there, and it's going to be hands-on from the time you walk in to the time you leave. None of this handing you an exercise sheet and saying, hey, we'll see you in 45 minutes, see how you're feeling. Nope, they're going to be right there with you, working you out start to finish to make sure that you can get back to being your active self. It's Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. You can check them out online at evolvept.com. You can go in there. They're on Starring near Highland Road. It's Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports, evolvept.com.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
All right, we'll chat with Sharif Ishak coming up in 12 minutes on the New Orleans Saints. Going to pivot back to LSU here briefly. Brian Kelly yesterday talked about LSU's interior defensive line and called them a strength. The actual quote was, I think a lot of the offseason was, what are you going to do with the defensive line? They've been a strength for us. Bo has done a great job of making sure those guys are gap conscious and fundamentally sound and getting off the ball. So they've been a strength. And I think there are some things that point in the right direction for the defensive front, especially in the run game. Now, there are going to be a lot of numbers in this segment. I'm going to try to keep them as easy as possible because when you're driving around, the worst thing someone can do on the radio is spew a bunch of numbers at you because they don't compute properly. So I'll try to keep it as simple as I can. And I understand there are a lot of caveats in this section, but I'm trying to dig a little bit more deeply into some of these numbers here. So here's the deal. LSU is the only team in America in the FBS that has allowed 3 runs of over 60 yards this season. The only team. You know what they are. Guggenheim up the gut against Nichols, and the 2 against South Carolina, Sellers with 1, and Rocket Sanders with the other. The only team in the country to allow 3 runs of 60-plus yards, your LSU Tigers. There are 134 teams that are playing. LSU is the only one that's done it. So, you've given up the most big plays. There are only 4 teams in college football that have given up 3 50-yard runs. Only 4. LSU's one of them. App State, Ball State, and Florida International. Now, let me throw some numbers here at you in terms of run defense and those teams rank in the country. Appalachian State's number 120 in the country. Ball State is 122nd, and Florida International is 120th. So they're all right there in the middle between 120 and 122nd. LSU is number 47 in the country in run defense. Now, I understand that at this point in the calendar, that statistics can tell a wild story because some teams have played 2 SEC teams, some teams have played non-conference games against FCS teams, some teams are lower-level teams like MAC teams, and they've played 2 teams against the Big Ten and the SEC, and because of that, there are wild swings with numbers. But bear with me here. LSU is grouped into this group of 4 as the only teams in the country that have allowed 3 50-yard runs. They're all about 120th in the nation in run defense, and LSU's 47th. Now, what am I saying here? Well, you can't just take those runs away. They count, and they do. And Hester is right when he says that. You can't take those runs away. But the point of that argument is not to wipe them completely off the ledger. The point is to say that Appalachian State, Ball State, and Florida International are giving up those 3 50-plus yard runs like LSU, but they're also just usually terrible against the run. LSU has had some awful reps against the run, but there aren't that many. What if I tell you that those 60-plus yard runs have accounted for 42% of the rushing yards that LSU has allowed? Almost half of the rushing yards LSU has given up have come from 3 runs. To give you those numbers more clearly, those 3 runs, 42%. The other 58%, 121 runs. So there aren't that many bad reps. Now, I understand. There are also caveats here that I'm not trying to manipulate the numbers here. I know that USC didn't run for a lot on LSU, and they threw it for 340, and they threw it when they had to, and LSU didn't stop them. I know. I know that Nichols shouldn't have a lot of big runs against LSU. They're an FCS team. And they didn't. They had the 1, and that's it. And I know that South Carolina, without a very good quarterback, shouldn't be able to bust those long runs when you know that they're coming. I understand. But the point of this is to say that a lot of times when teams do run the ball against LSU, LSU does a pretty good job to stop them. Back in this theme with South Carolina, I know they busted 2 60-yard runs. We're acknowledging that. Those are 2 terrible reps that you have to clean up. What did the other reps look like? Well, 39 rushes for 102 yards. That's 2.6 yards per carry. 2.6 yards per carry makes you the number 15 run defense in college football. It's just the fact that on runs 40 and 41, they ran for 141 yards, and that's a problem. But again, would you rather have a team give up 200 yards rushing because they gave up 8 yards on every run play, or because they had 2 missed assignments? To me, it's easier to clean up 2 missed assignments than it is to clean up 8 yards a pop every time. Now, last year, LSU played Alabama, and Alabama ran the ball for 288 yards. Their longest run that night was 23 yards. Now, Milroe did a lot of it, but still, you get the point. Like, they're not running off any chunk plays, and they're running for 288. That means you can't stop them. I would suggest, in looking at the numbers, that LSU does stop some teams on a lot of run plays. They just aren't tight enough on them all. And I say all of this to go, yes, I am well aware that Ole Miss and Alabama, and really honestly probably Texas A&M, are going to run the ball a hell of a lot better than Nicholls, and a hell of a lot better than South Carolina, and a hell of a lot better than Southern Cal. I know that. You've got to get a lot better. But I think you're seeing some signs of improvement when last year you saw a defensive line that had NFL players, Mekhi Wingo, Mason Smith, Jordan Jefferson, on that line, and they were getting gashed. This is a mosh unit of transfers and guys who have transplanted from different positions and true freshmen. And a lot of times when teams hand the ball off and run the ball, you do an okay job. You just got to keep getting better. And this goes down to the point that we're making about this entire defensive staff. If you want to sit there and say they're not good enough, they can't stop anybody, Nicholls is busting off 3 straight long drives, USC threw it whenever they wanted to, South Carolina ran for 200 some odd yards, UCLA couldn't score on anybody and they scored 17 in the first half, you're not wrong. You are not wrong. You are not wrong. However, I believe that this coaching staff is going to eventually get this thing cooking. Do I think it's going to be this week against South Alabama? No. Do I think it's going to be 2 weeks against Ole Miss? Probably not. But I do believe the guys are being coached better, and I believe that you can see some of that if you really take the time to look into the numbers. It's not good. It is progressing. But you started at reprehensibly atrocious, and you're building towards something that needs to be angling towards good. You cannot allow 60-yard runs. You cannot be the only team in the country who has given up 3 60-yard runs. You cannot be that at LSU. That is unacceptable. However, if you look at this in its entirety and you look at 40 runs in a game and 30, 33, 34 of them are really well defended and some aren't as well defended and then 1 or 2 are disaster, that's easier to fix than we just don't stop anybody ever. They've got to continue to progress, and they've got to continue to recruit. That's how this thing gets better. Not better right now. That's how it gets better. You got one more game and then a bye week before one of the best offenses in the country comes into town. Just drive it on. See what they can do. If you want to read more about that, you can do so at LouisianaSports.net. I've got a piece up there that's on the front page right now. Kelly called the defensive line a strength. Do the numbers agree? And I dive pretty deep into it there in print. You can check that out at LouisianaSports.net. News of the day, Erik McCoy going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. We talked about it at the top of this segment. We'll now talk about it with Sharif Ishak of WDSU when we come back on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa have been at it for 40 years. They're a certified Generac generator dealer, a premier Generac generator dealer. Give yourself the peace of mind of knowing that power's not going to go out. Looks like Helene, that's coming up into the Gulf here in the coming days, is going to head towards the Florida Panhandle, maybe the Big Bend over there. That's good news for us, but hopefully everybody in its path is okay. Generators are important during hurricane season because you never know if that power is going to be out for no time, for 3 hours, for a day, for 5 days. You're going to want to have that Boudreaux's electrical generator when that day comes. Give them a call at 985-397-1562, 985-397-1562, or in the 225 in their Gonzales location, 225-300-9389. They will power your home in the event of that outage. Give yourself that peace of mind. Every Generac generator that you buy from Boudreaux's Electrical comes with a 7 to 10-year warranty, depending on the kind of generator that you purchase. You can make a phone call, those 2 numbers I just gave you, or you can make it easy on yourself. Go to BoudreauxElectrical.com, BoudreauxElectrical.com.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Pluckers. 30 minutes to go. Bottom of the hour. In the 2 o'clock hour every single Tuesday, we get on to New Orleans, talk to our guy Sharif Ishak, WDSU. Sharif, how we doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Look, today's news didn't help, but I think we knew that Erik McCoy was going to be out for some time after suffering that groin injury. 6 to 8 weeks. It's tough. It's tough, man. That's the one position we said before the season started they couldn't afford to have any kind of injuries or setbacks. And 3 games into the season, they have their biggest setback on that offensive line.
Yeah, it's a bad deal. How much of the ineffectiveness of the Saints running game on Sunday would you apply to the fact that Erik McCoy wasn't there for all but 3 snaps?
Well, yes and no. Yes, it definitely affected it, but, no, because you have to give credit to that defensive line, man. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, the 2 Georgia guys, were just absolutely eating them alive. I think had he been there, it would have helped a little bit, but I just thought that, like I told you last week, what they would do, they would stack that line, and Vic Fangio would try to disguise their defense and do anything as much as possible to put as many guys in pressure on Derek Carr in that run game, and they did exactly that. But, yeah, it hurts. It hurts not to have, Erik McCoy in a game like that, but at the same time, you have to, hate the cliche, but you do have to give that defensive line and Vic Fangio a lot of credit for how they schemed it up and really shut down Alvin Kamara. He had almost, 29 carries?
Yeah, they tried.
30 carries, and They tried, but they just, couldn't get it done.
Do you think a lot of teams can replicate that, or that's just a deal where Philly's got a lot of talent and they got a good coordinator and they were a tough matchup?
Well, now it's the point of, can Clint Kubiak gets punched in the mouth? Can he now adapt and adjust? And if those teams are going to adapt and do the same thing, now he has to adjust and adapt. They're going to try. Let's see what Clint Kubiak is made of, because he was like the hero the first 2 weeks of you don't have to pay for anything in the city of New Orleans ever again, to the point where you're like, okay, maybe you got to pay for a few things now, but but we knew. I mean, like in the locker room after the game, they knew adversity was going to hit. They were never going to score 40-plus points a game. At this point, let's see if Clint can adjust, because he's without his best offensive lineman for 6 to 8 games. So let's see. I'm a little worried, but not like ready to hit the red button just yet, the panic button.
How do you think they replace him? Who goes to center? I know it was Patrick on Sunday. Do they move Ruiz in there? How do they handle center and the 2 guard spots now?
No, I think they go as is. They keep Lucas Patrick there. They keep Ruiz where he is. In the next position, the next part becomes who takes Lucas Patrick's part. Do they go Ali Uday? They just go, Nick Stalderberry. But I think they're going to stick to the same lineup they had once Erik McCoy left the game. Signing a guy now, really, you're only signing him for depth at this point, because can they come in and play right away? Probably not. So I'm thinking they're going to stick with the same offensive line that they stuck with during that Philly game after McCoy went out.
Any concerns with Derek Carr on Sunday?
No, I just think, man, look, that offensive line got eaten alive. I mean, people were mad he threw that ball. Even I said, honestly, he shouldn't have thrown that ball. 3 guys were in his face. Maybe he should have eaten it. Maybe he should have thrown it away to the outside. Never throw the ball with a single high safety. He was just playing out center field, waiting for you to throw the ball. No, I'm not concerned. I mean, like I said, he was never going to be the best quarterback for 17 games. I mean, it was bound to happen, and they just, Philadelphia defense was tired of hearing about how, the Saints are great and they didn't play well against, the Falcons in the final couple minutes of the game. I just think it was schemed, and they got beat by a good defense.
How was the Dome on Sunday?
Look, I said 2019. It really felt like 2018. It really did feel like. I saw the decibel levels get close to 130. I haven't seen that since 2018 NFC Championship game. 2019 schedule was kind of weak to me at home, but I felt like it was like the NFC Championship game deafening. 15,000 Eagles fans were in there, though, and I am not to tell Saints fans what to do with their tickets and their money, but, because Saints fans do the same thing when they go to Dallas and Atlanta. It's rare to see, home fans really have an entire stadium sold out. I think the only team maybe might be the Chiefs at this point, who, don't really see their fans selling tickets to opposing fans, but it was an electric atmosphere. I enjoy when opposing fans actually show up to the Superdome. It makes it a little bit more hostile, a little bit more fun. So you can see the back and forth. You can see, like, Bobby Hebert going at it with the Eagles fans, with the Eagle EAGLES chant, and they were yelling it back at them after they took the lead there. So it's fun. I thought the atmosphere was great.
All right, you look at Atlanta coming up on Sunday on the road, a noon kickoff, 1 o'clock out in the ATL on Fox. What's one thing you're looking at above all else in this game?
Being able to fight through the adversity now at this point. Can Clint and, Derek get that offense somewhat rolling again? Can they get into the mid-upper 20s? Can they, find that end zone? Because, kicking field goals and your defense giving you the ball that many times, like 6 times if you include the special teams, and only scoring 1 touchdown, just isn't going to cut it. So I'm looking at, them having, see if they can have that balanced offense that is successful. Can they find a way to run the ball a little bit better with this kind of new-look offensive line that Erik McCoy is gone? I'm mainly looking at the offense. I'm not really worried about the defense. I think the defense will do what they do. They're going to get after Kirk Cousins. They don't have to worry about a guy who can move the pocket, who can kind of, get outside like Jalen Hurts. But, I understand they have Bijan, but at least you might want to let Kirk try to throw the ball on you and see if he can beat you, because a standstill quarterback, a guy who sits in the pocket, might be best for them.
Hey, you look at this Falcons receiving core. Darnell Mooney leads them in yards. You got Drake London, then Raymond McLeod, and obviously Kyle Pitts. I feel like each and every week when I look at the opposition as far as their receiving core goes, I look at it and I go, I think the Saints can definitely hang. Is that kind of the way you feel it most weeks?
I do. I mean, The one thing I am going to be interested to see, you talked about if teams saw what the Saints offense looked like against the Eagles. If they saw what the Eagles offense did to the Saints defense on that final drive, if the Saints get into man, are they going to try, using Kyle Pitts against the Saints safeties? Because traditionally the Saints have struggled against safeties, and since the time of football started, beginning of the time they've had issues with guarding tight ends and safeties. So I do wonder if they try to get a mismatch with Kyle Pitts on one of the Saints safeties and try to roll them across the field and do the same thing if they get into man coverage. But that's the way the defense they like to play under Dennis Allen, is that man coverage defense. But I think it's a good matchup. I mean, look, the defense minus Demario Davis is healthy. Now let's see how serious his injury is, because not having him out there would kind of sting a little bit for the defense. But I think they match up excellent, man. That secondary continues to show me they can do a lot of things, especially Alontae Taylor.
Chiefs coming up on Monday Night Football the following week. So how big a week is this before you go to Arrowhead against the Falcons?
I hate saying it, man, but I love saying it at the same time. I feel like this is a must-win defining
There
game
you go.
this
I can
weekend.
always get must-win out of Sharif.
Yeah, there you go. I know you wanted me to say it, but I think it's more of a defining game for the season more than a must-win. It's a defining game for both teams. They lose, they go to 1-3. Saints win, they go to 3-1, and it looks like they have a better, path to winning the NFC South. Because, man, I mean, 2-2 is not the end of the world, but then you're going to KC, and you got so many factors going against you whenever you play the Chiefs in Arrowhead. I mean, you're let alone playing them at home, but playing them at your place, but you go to their place on a Monday night, crowd, Taylor Swift, if she's there. Officials, which are always like the big issue whenever you play the Chiefs. Mahomes, I mean, you've got to win this game this Sunday. It gets to the point where you have to win. I'm not calling it must win, but I'm calling it maybe a possibly defining game for each team.
Do you think they win?
I do. I said it Sunday after they lost to the Eagles. I said, I know they lost McCoy. They didn't have Taysom Hill. By the way, not having Taysom Hill,
big
they
deal.
Bring that up. That's a big deal. I know everyone's like, so you're really relying on Taysom Hill? Yes, because Taysom Hill, Swiss Army knife for a reason. He can do a lot on that offense. So I think having him back, they should have him back this week. I like the Saints. I really do like the Saints in Atlanta this week after that game. They also the Eagles.
Awesome, Sharif. We appreciate some time, man. We'll talk next week.
All right, man. Anytime.
Sharif Ishak, WDSU, always good enough to give us some time talking Saints. And, yeah, I mean, I figured we could fish for that a little bit. I didn't know that he'd give it to me this early. But it's a big, big game because you know that it's going to be difficult to go to Kansas City and win. And
it's a divisional game.
It is a divisional game. You're going to worry about tiebreakers down the line. Likely at some point somebody in this division is. I just don't know that somebody's going to run off and go win 12 games and get it done like that. So you feel like the last couple of years, it's going to be somewhere in the margins, and this is one of those that you'd really like to sock away. We talked in the first segment of this hour about trying to tread water with Erik McCoy out, and this is going to be a tough one, but one that you can get. And I do early on, I haven't gotten deep into this, but just surface area, I kind of like the matchup because I like the Saints pass rush. Cousins does not move very well. The Falcons have tried to surround Kirk Cousins with a lot of toys, and I feel like the Saints are equipped to match up with toys. They're good on the outside at coverage, and so I think they'll do well there. Question is, can this Falcons defensive front do the things that the Eagles defensive front did to New Orleans? And that remains to be seen. A lot of these guys that play defense for the Falcons were part of the Saints organization a couple of years ago because we know the pipeline that's been headed that direction on the defensive side of the ball for the last 3 years. So big one. We'll certainly talk about it as the week progresses. Saints and Falcons noon on Fox this Sunday. Come back, close things out. Final segment of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com is the website. Always invite you to check them out on Instagram as well, AVSS_BR. It's a great Instagram profile with a lot of their capabilities. If you are building a home or have plans to build a home, I'm talking to you. Call Audio Video Security Solutions before that starts up. Mitchell Fisher says it's so much easier to handle things before the entire house goes up. You can be part of the building process, and that way it can be done when the house is complete. It's a great way to get your audio system hooked up, to get your video system hooked up, get your security system ready to roll so that when you move into that brand new house, it's completely wired up and ready to go for you. You'll have your apps. You can control everything at a touch of a button. It makes things so simple over there at Audio Video Security Solutions. They were the People's Choice Award winner for the best vendor at the Parade of Homes earlier this year, and that's for a reason. They're fantastic. Their installation is seamless, and the customer service asked for the installation, whether it's audio, video, or security, is always first class. Give Mitchell Fisher a call, 225-439-7920, 225-439-7920. Check them out online, avssla.com. It's Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
.104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and Shell are excited to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Tiger Stadium with our Draw to 100 sweepstakes. We're giving you the opportunity to join the VIP-style celebrations on October 12th for the Ole Miss game. Sign up today at 1045ESPN.com. We'll live stream the drawing on October 10th, and the 100th name drawn will win Stadium Club seats, sideline passes, and autographed memorabilia. It's the Draw to 100 sweepstakes presented by Shell, the Rhythm of Louisiana.
Our Tuesday show is brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar. Beck, underrated Plucker's menu item. Go.
I will say the Larry Bird, and you toss it in a good sauce, in my opinion, like garlic parm or maybe like spicy ranch, something like that.
That is actually the correct answer. That the sandwiches on the menu
they're really underrated.
They're slept on. I'm not going to tell you to go to Pluckers and not get wings.
No,
they're wonderful. I love the boneless wings. And I would suggest I probably get wings 8 out of 10 times I go to Pluckers, maybe 9 out of 10. But if you mix a sandwich in, I'm just saying it's pretty good.
So, like as I've noted before, I worked there. And whenever you work there for a long time, you obviously get tired of the wings. So you just try everything. And it really, honestly, the sandwiches really were underrated.
I'll tell you, and the other thing that I just love is the blue cheese chips.
Oh, my gosh. Before I started working there, I didn't like blue cheese. I thought it was disgusting. But then I started working there, and I just before, and then I started working there, and I tried it, and I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm missing out.
Fantastic stuff. We'll be there tonight. Plucker Sports Trivia, 8:30, Nicholson location. Have you out of there by 10 o'clock. There's always an LSU football round. You can drink some cold beer, eat some of these fantastic menu items we're talking to you about, and win some gift cards as well. Pluckers Sports Trivia. Pluckers, if you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird. All right, take it or leave it.
All right, first one here. The Oakland A's owner wrote a letter to the city of Oakland. He suggested ownership tried to keep the team in Oakland. Take it or leave it.
Leave it. Just don't write the note.
No.
Nobody cares about your note. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares. It's just a complete disaster. Okay, I understand fully that I am speaking without very much information in terms of owning a professional sports organization. I don't own one. I own a couch. I own multiple ink pens and a few pairs of shoes. I don't own any. I have some golf clubs. I don't own a professional sports team. I don't even own a business. So I can't speak to that with a level of certainty. I will tell you what little minion in Baton Rouge with the microphone says, and that's me. When you purchase a sports team, if you make decisions based on financial reasons for your ownership groups solely, you are doing a gross disservice to everyone else who pays for all that. You work for the fans. Number one among everything that you have to consider when owning a team is, how do I keep it here? Number two is, how do I win the championship? You start talking about how to create revenue streams and stuff, that's number three. And there are probably every business person would look at me and say, well, you're an idiot, because that's not how businesses work.
Unfortunately, yes.
They're the idiots. I'm not the idiot.
I agree.
Sports, if you want to worry about cash flow, then sell the team for $2 billion. You'll have plenty of cash. You will have all the cash you need. But if you're going to buy the team and you're going to run the team, you don't take the team away.
The situation is so horrible in my eyes because, you know what? I'm with you. I don't agree with them leaving. It really sucks that Oakland has lost all these teams with the Raiders leaving and now the A's. But it's not. Las Vegas still hasn't.
Yeah, they don't want them.
They don't want them. So why would you uproot the team? You're going to go play in Sacramento. Okay, but like, where's the money coming from if you can't even get a stadium in Las Vegas? Right. What are you going to do?
So I'm reading the angry A's fans who are probably misguided in some small way as well with their Twitter takes. But it was basically the city mandated that they needed a new stadium, and the ownership group can't afford to build one, and so they said, well, you have to build us one. The taxpayers have to do it. And the taxpayers were like, no, we're not doing that. And so they just up and left. And my thing is, if you can't afford to build the stadium, then you sell the team. And so you let somebody in that can do it. And I understand that's a massive asset and it's a cash cow and that selling the team is grossly misguided financially. But in my opinion, then you need to own something else that's not a sports team. Because this is just, I can't even imagine my sports team that is down the street that I go and support every single summer is leaving. Like, that is mind-blowing to me. And it'll never happen to me because one sports team that I have is so far away in the Cubs and the other one is tethered to a university that can't move. So I won't ever have to deal with that, but it just breaks my heart for true sports fans that are having their team ripped away. And I don't know who this owner is, and if he walked in the door today, I wouldn't even know who he was. But I despise this move because I don't think he should move sports franchises. And there were a ton of people on Twitter earlier on Sunday that were looking at the Rams Stadium, and it was full of 49ers.
90%.
Just 90% red. That's egregious.
It is. Yeah, I don't like it either. But next one here, Oklahoma University is making the switch from... Sorry, the University of Oklahoma. Our regular switch
OU, which has always been weird.
Yeah. From Jackson Arnold to true freshman Michael Hawkins Jr. at quarterback against Auburn. Arnold will start at LSU after Thanksgiving. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I think they're doing this, and I think Hawkins gives him a little excitement, a little bit of juice as a runner, but I think they will eventually go back to Arnold. Brent Venables said today that Arnold's got a great future, and he's going to be a great quarterback, and he's going to play in this game. So I think that this is a spark deal, and they're going to see what they can do here, but I expect that by the time Oklahoma comes in here in late November that he'll be the quarterback.
All right, last one. Monday Night Football double headers. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't need the two games.
No.
I can't follow the two games at once. I'm a one TV guy in the living room. They were talking about that on Barstool. Oh, you only have one TV? Yeah, I only have one TV. My wife would freak out if I tried to put two televisions in the living room.
Not happening.
That's not going to happen. So I need one game at a time. I realized that everyone was watching the LSU boys on Monday Night Football because the other game got to be a blowout. Jacksonville's got some real problems.
Yeah.
But I don't need two games on Monday night. I think I'll deal with the one. I know there's a bajillion going on Sunday, but I'll take the one on Monday night. I'll pass on the doubleheader.
Yeah, I knew that two games were happening, and I knew that the Bills game would start earlier. So like during halftime of the Commanders and Bengals game, I watched a little bit of the other game just because it was halftime, and then I switched it back. Like how. I understand, you could have multiple TVs or anything, or something like that, but it just doesn't make much sense to me why you would split a viewer base for that. But
whatever. That's it for a Tuesday edition of Take It or Leave It. Top of the show today, talked about Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow. Really cool night for LSU and for Jaden Daniels last night. Just awesome. If you want to read about it, I've got a piece up at louisianasports.net that talks about the ball game last night and how cool that was for LSU. Brian Kelly spoke with media yesterday. We clipped some sound bites from that and talked about it at 2:15. Glenn West from Go 24/7 with us at 1:30 talking Tigers. And Hugh Freeze put his foot in his mouth earlier this week. We talked about that at the end of hour number 1. Erik McCoy's hurt. Big deal for New Orleans Saints. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. My reaction to that at 2 o'clock. You can find that on YouTube at Hunt on Saints. Is LSU's run defense improving? You can find that at louisianasports.net or go to Hunt on LSU and see the segment that came at you at 2:15 today. Then we talked to Sharif about the black and gold. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound, or of course on YouTube. That's going to do it for us here on this Tuesday. Matt Moscona is about to drive you home on After Further Review. I hope to see you tonight at 8:30 Nicholson location of Pluckers for Sports Center, for Sports Trivia. Either way, we're back here same time, same place for a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 22